Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
You're nice and clear.
All right, perfect.
Here we go. Over to you, Tim.
All right. Let's start then. Okay. Hello, everyone, wherever you're coming from. Hello, Tongan Pro athletes of today's and yesterday. Welcome to our weekly conversation with our Tongan Pro athletes of today's and yesterday. Our guest tonight is William Tukuafu. He's an American football player. He was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks as an undrafted free agent in 2010. He also played for the 49ers. He was born in Salt Lake City, Utah. He attended East High School. From high school, he attended Scottsdale Community College in Arizona. He then transferred to the University of Oregon. Originally, drafted by the Seahawks. They released him, uh, and he was signed by the San Francisco 49ers. While with the 49ers, he appeared in the 2012 Super Bowl. I think he played for 4 years with the 49ers. He was released by the 49ers, then picked up again by the Seahawks. Played for a few more years, and due to injuries, he gave up the game that he loved. So it's an honor and a pleasure to have you, Will Tukuafu, tonight as our guest. Um, our page is just for that. Is we wanted to recognize our athletes from Tonga that has taken the name of our country all over the world, and you're one of them that that sticks out to a lot of our people's mind of your when you played uh, professionally. So we welcome you, man. We appreciate you coming on to have the conversation. It's just our conversation is just a normal conversation. We just want to know where you're at in life now. With you made it to the professional level, to see what it takes to get into the professional level, and just to see where you're at with your life at today. So welcome, my man. We appreciate you coming on. Just if you can just come on in, introduce yourself, and let us know who your parents are, your grandparents, the people that supported you when you were coming up through your career, and just to recognize them for the for being those people that supported you throughout your career, and still today. So welcome, my man. Come on in and introduce yourself, and just tell us a little bit about you right now, and where you come from in Tonga, because I know a lot of those villages want to claim you as their own out there. So
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for setting this all up. I know the rest of those who are tuning in. I am truly honored to be here and be able to share a little bit about my story, and about my experiences in my family, my faith, and kind of what motivates me, and how we can all strive to put one foot in front of the other and be better. I think that's essentially is one of my goals, and should be for all of us, is just being better, a little bit better. One of my coaches used to always say this, Coach Harbaugh, when I was at San Fran. He always said, just you don't have to be that much better. Just be a little bit better today than you were yesterday. You just gradually make those steps, and eventually you'll get to where you're wanting to go. But Tim, like you said, yeah, my name is Viliami Tangialotu Tukuafu. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. My parents are Vili and Elise Tukuafu. My mom comes from Kameli in Vava'u, and my dad comes from a small island called Lape. And so a lot of people refer to him as Vili Lape. And so I have a big family. I am one of 16,
wow.
and there's quite a bit more that my father took in and raised as his own. But yeah, so I'm number 15 of the 16 kids, and my dad originally had 12 with his first wife, Rosaline, and then she had passed away, and my dad married my mom, Elise, by Nicolo, by Scala. That's right. No, I remember reaching out to Fitz when he was with the Warriors, and I was trying to see if there was any type of relation with the last name, because that's my mom's last name. Anyways, my dad had 12 kids with his first wife. She passed away. He then remarried and married my mom, and then had 4 more. So there's a big age difference in the children. Because when I was born, my dad was 60 years old.
Oh wow!
And so we often joke that my dad was being the modern day Abraham. The older guy would younger kid.
Yeah.
But I was born and raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. Um, to a wonderful, wonderful family. And I often talk to my older siblings about the experience that they had with my father. My dad was a lot younger. He was a worker, and he did the same with us. But because he was a lot older, he was transitioning more to doing more work, like scripture reading, prayers, or whatever that the case may be. But and I come from an LDS background. I'm a member of the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so my dad spent a lot of time at the temple. So he was more lecturing the younger four, and that's kind of my experience that I had with my dad. My mom was the disciplinary person in our household. When my mom spoke, you made sure you listened. Yeah. And so that's how the whole dynamic of my growing up was. My mom and my dad, when they moved here from Tonga, they didn't really speak too much English, and so they worked as janitors for the church, and so they're responsible anywhere from between 8 to 12 different chapels, and that's what they did my whole life growing up. So whenever we'd finish school or practice, we'd figure out what chapel they were at, and then that's what we'd go and help clean up the chapels. And once that chapel was done, we moved to the next one. And so that's kind of how my upbringing started. And our love for basketball started because we tried to finish up our work so we can go play basketball in the gym. So we always had access to the gym because my parents were the janitors. And and that's how they raised us and emphasized the importance of working hard and loving God and being kind to people and taking care of your family. And that's kind of really what's molded me and something that I strive to do and help my kids each and every day. And people that I come in contact with is to love your family and take care of your family and love God and be kind and be a good person. And so
that's awesome, man.
That's basically me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's good. I mean, the stories, when we talk to these athletes, our stories are about similar, migrating from Tonga to here. Our parents migrate from Tonga to here to give their kids a better life than they had in Tonga. And it's amazing and to see when they move, it's the struggle to put food on the table, but they manage somehow to do it. They manage somehow to put food on the table. And my question to you, what's the motivation for you? Were you always an athletic kid growing up? Or and what was your motivation to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I saw the struggle from my parents.
Sure.
When we were younger, so the younger four, we were born here, so we grew up. We primarily we spoke Tongan at the home. We learned English when we went out to school, and so that's what we spoke. And when I would go with my mom or my dad places and stuff, you kind of saw them struggling to speak English and to try to navigate. And on the weekends after they would finish the jobs, whatever, we'd go mow lawns, we'd go do all those different things.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were, I mean, we were poor. We were a poor family, and we had a lot of people that helped us out. A lot of wonderful neighbors and friends and family. So I saw that growing up, and that motivated me. That was enough motivation. That was for me. I'm like, hey, look, I see my parents. They tell us, they reiterate day in and day out that they are clean. They're doing all this because they came from Tonga for us to have a better life, to education, and to be able to provide for ourselves and our future families or whatever the case may be. And so that to me was enough motivation. I didn't need anything else. When I was growing up, I had a heart condition.
Wow.
So I couldn't play sports. I never passed my physical. And condition was my heart would pound fast anytime I would do any type of strenuous exercise, um, or that type of activity. My heart would start pumping really fast, and I'd have to sit down. And because of that, I wasn't able to play football. And then I had a surgical procedure done, going into my ninth grade year in high school, and that's where they went in and they did what's called an ablation, where they go in and whatever the piece in my heart that's causing that issue, they burns it. And I finally I was cleared to play. And that's when I started my journey of playing basketball and football and baseball in high school. And
So you didn't start. So you didn't start until like around what, ninth grade, 10th grade, playing sports?
yeah, ninth grade. I played sports, but I wasn't able to play like official
Play,
sports.
oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, so then ninth grade, that's when I started actually legitimately playing, and it was one of those things that I had to make up time because a lot of my friends, they were all playing little league and doing all this stuff, and I wasn't able to. I remember there was a guy, his name was Coach Romney. He was one of the coaches on the east side because I went to East High School. He would come in his red Suburban down to the west side and pick up all the Polynesian kids. and a lot of times I tried to sneak into the red Suburban, and he knew I had the
heart problem.
He said, "Hey, Will, you got to get out." So I'm crying, climbing out the back of the Suburban, and so when I got my opportunity, my ninth grade after the surgery was done, I tried to take full advantage of it and try to involve myself in everything like football, basketball, and baseball as well as the sports I played in high school.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the story, I mean, you just heard about your heart problem. Sometimes that kind of give a kid, just false hope that, if I'm having this problem, I can't play sports. But you like use that problem to boost your way into the sports world and keep going, and so you and ended up becoming a professional athlete. So I mean, kudos to you, man. It's sometimes people don't know what people go through in life and what's the challenges they have, but as for people that has a strong will to go move forward and become the person they are today, it's just a will to make things happen. So our panel, anybody else who wants to have any questions? Will?
Will, who was your biggest influence growing up in football? That the love for the game, because I know you come from a real family football background. All your nephews played, like Steve Carfusi them. But who was your biggest influence?
You know what? Like football, it was just something. I mean, I grew up around it. A lot of, like you said, a lot of my nephews, they all played. My older siblings played. But it was more because I really didn't look up, like, it's kind of weird. My father was my biggest influence.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with football, but he motivated me. He said, whatever you do, whether it's sports or books or whatever it is, you give it 110%. He'd always say stuff like that. So it wasn't really like someone that I looked up to, like, oh man, this guy, I want to be like him or him. I just looked at it as an opportunity. Like, I see my mom and my dad vacuuming the chapel. They're waking up early to make sure that we're off to school. Then they go with their janitor bucket.
Yeah. You've seen the struggles. You've seen the struggle of their parents. That's your motivation, was that?
Yeah, I didn't need anything else.
Yeah.
That was enough for me. So I in my mind, I'm like, okay, this football thing, I wouldn't say comes easy, but it's there's an opportunity, and I can go to school and get my school paid for. All right, let me try to take this and we'll go from there. So going to the pros and all this and stuff was not something that initially. It was more so like my parents moved here from Tonga so I can go to college and get an education. So this
Yep.
could be an opportunity for me. And so kind of that's what my motivating factor was. One of my main ones, actually.
I think this things just happens. I think that, like you just said here, is that the motivation came from seeing your mom and dad struggling to put food on the table and going out and spending all day, all night trying to, to try to take care of your siblings and yourself. And that's the motivation you had. Okay, let me get this so I can get a scholarship to go and further my education. And if everything falls in place and football becomes something that I can go into, that's an extra. But I mean, I, I think I had the same feelings too when I seen my parents struggle. But the opportunity presented itself with, okay, I can get a scholarship because my parents can't pay for me to go to college, but I can make it happen in the classroom and sports to get to get an education for free and go
Yeah.
on from.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it was for me, because I mean, I started kind of seeing a few of my friends go on recruiting trips, right? And so when I was coming up through high school, I started getting attention from different colleges and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, we probably could do this thing.
Sure.
And one of my motivating factors was to pass my ACT test, so I can get qualified to go on these recruiting trips, because I knew that during these recruiting trips, you can bring your parents. They would
Yes.
put you up one in a hotel, and
Yeah.
they'll feed you at the nicest restaurants, right?
Yes. Yes.
So for me, that's what was like, man, Mom, we're gonna go eat this place, Sizzlers or wherever it is,
Right.
and that's kind of was like, okay, now we can do this. But like I said initially, like my dad's motivating factor was to make sure that we were a God-fearing family, that we loved God, that we wanted to follow our our Heavenly Father and our Savior.
Sure.
And so part of those little steps that we've took, he gives the opportunity whether or not to go on a mission. And initially, when I was getting ready to go to when I was graduating high school, I initially thought, man, like if I go to college, I could probably go and do good. I could probably go to NFL, and I could probably take care of my family and do whatnot financially, right?
Sure.
And that was the long run. But then my dad would always reiterate, hey, if you put the Lord first, the Lord will take care of you. And I thought about the different dynamics that it posed to me, that if I went on a mission, I'm going to work a year, then I'm going to go for 2 years. I'm going to be out of the game for 3 years. By the time I'm coming back,
Yeah.
I'm going to be 21 as a 21-year-old freshman. This is when guys are coming into their NFL.
Yeah.
Maybe like their season, they're probably like year 2 or whatever in their a rookie year, right? And I'm just starting college. So I thought about that whole different thing. And I remember talking to my dad, like, man, I'm going to try to go to school. He said, well, it's your choice, but if you put the Lord first, the Lord will take care of you. And that's what I decided to do.
Okay.
And it was tough. It was tough for me because a lot of my buddies were headed off to college. And when they went to college, I saw them with, they'd have their scholarship checks and they'd come back and they'd have new clothes. Some of them had cards. And I was working as a shop helper for my buddy's company, his dad's company called Gold Cross Ambulance in Salt Lake City.
Uh-huh.
So every day I'd go and clean the shop. Once I was done cleaning up the shop, then I'd help the mechanics change brakes, tires, whatever it was. And I did that for a whole year until I left on my mission. And then I got my call to my mission and I went to Jamaica, Jamaica mission. So I was there for 2 years. And prior to me leaving and graduating high school, I signed to play football at BYU.
Oh, okay.
Fast forwarding it, I come back from my mission, did the 2 years, the 1 year working, getting ready to go to BYU to sign up for my spring classes. I went and sat in the coach's office and he slid a folder to me. He said, hey, Will, I didn't want to bother you on your mission. But you were short a credit. And because you're short a credit, you didn't clear the NCAA clearinghouse, meaning you are going to have to go to a junior college and
Junior
get your
college.
associate's degree, and then you can transfer to a Division I school.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that was like, for me, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, the year I went on a 2-year mission, then I come back and now I got to go to a junior college.
Junior college.
So that in its whole self took on a life of its
It's a big
own, and
blow,
that was kind of, but that was like the struggle that I've seen growing up. The road wasn't always paved; it was filled with rocks and divots and bumps and stuff. So, you know what I mean? I grew up around that. That's what I seen. That's what I was. That's what I watched my parents do day in and day out.
But you know that curve that when the coach told you that you were short of credit, and thinking back, I mean, every kid will probably say, "Man, why this now?" And some kids will give up and say, "Well, it's not for me. I don't want to do this or whatever." But I mean, you took it upon you to go to say, "Well, this road has closed. I got to take another direction here and see where I can go and figure it out." But you figured it out. You went to junior college, got your credit up, then you went to Oregon. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest, one of the biggest schools that you can go to.
Yeah. It's just like you said, like when for me, it was like. So after that happened, my brother Masa, he lived in Arizona. He heard about the whole situation. He said, "Hey, Will, why don't you come live with me?" He owns a Hawaiian restaurant, Moki's Hawaiian Grill.
Okay. Nice.
So he said, "Hey, you can come work at the restaurant. You can eat. You can pick one of the junior colleges here in the Valley and just go from there." So next thing I know, I jumped on a plane. I was in Arizona. My first day of practice, I remember walking out there and I saw this big, massive guy. He was just down there, just stretching. I thought he was a guest speaker because this was his first day of spring. I thought he was a guest speaker. And I introduced myself to him. I'm like, "Wait, what's up? My name's Will, blah, blah, this and that." And he says,
Right.
"Hey, my name's Lewis Holmes." I'm like, "Oh, cool. Are you speaking to us today?" He's like, "No, I play here with you." Come to find out, Lewis was the #1 junior college recruit in the country. And he played defensive end. So I was fortunate enough. And I thought to myself, man, I just thought that I'm going to have to, take the long route and do this
Right.
and that. Now I'm playing with the #1 JC recruit in the whole country. As practice started to go, I started noticing all these different coaches. Because he was the #1 player, we had a number of like at least probably 10 to 15 coaches that practice every day trying to recruit this guy.
Recruit, yeah. Okay.
Fortunate enough for me, that's how I was able to get looks to eventually go to Oregon.
Man, things work in mysterious ways, man, because, a lot of times I hear these kids that don't have enough credit to move on to the Division I football program just because they're short. Sometimes they just give up. They don't want to take there's always another way to go through to get into the Division I schools. But how you did it, I mean, you didn't really, it's good to know and to see that you didn't give up and say, "Well, I didn't get it, so I might as well just go look for a job." But you didn't. A lot of our kids do that, is that they don't, when they come out of high school and doesn't have a Division I scholarship, they just give up and not knowing that they can go to junior college and go from there. There's always another way to get there.
There's definitely a lot of avenues and definitely a lot of ways that you can kind of maneuver yourself. But all in all, it has to be that individual that's motivated. Like I played with so many guys that are a lot more talented than I am, that went to the JC ranks, even at the D1 ranks. But and even at the professional level, right?
Mhm.
But that motivation has to come from within. You
From you.
can't have someone motivating you each and every day, because eventually that well's going to run dry and you're going to have to
Right.
find another source, right? And
Right.
so that's kind of what I saw, because when I went to Oregon, you do the whole recruiting thing, and they're like, yeah, you're gonna come. What number do you want to be? This and that. You're gonna be our starter. I get there, and I'm
You're
like,
just another
third or,
guy.
I'm the third or fourth guy on the depth chart. I'm behind a
Yeah.
guy named Dexter Manley. His dad was a
Oh, wow.
long-time professional player,
Yes,
uh,
Dexter.
and then Victor Felipe. He was a Salt Lake guy. I was behind another one. I think his name was. Anyways, there was probably another. So I get up there, and right away I knew, like, man, this is gonna be an uphill battle. Like, I'm on the scout team. I'm not even getting second team reps. I'm just the guy giving these guys a look. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I eventually just keep plowing away one day at a time, and eventually I start my first year there, and then my second year there the same, and then my third year there. Rewinding a little bit, because I had 3 years there, I was supposed to stay JC for 2 years.
Yes. Yeah.
But after my first year, I started receiving offers from different coaches. And then I thought to myself, why would I want to blow another year at JC if these guys had already offered me? And so they said, hey, I called up, I didn't tell anyone. I called up all the coaches. I said, hey, if I decide to sit out next year and focus on my education to get my credits up, and use this as my redshirt year so I can have 3 years at a D1, would you hold your scholarship for me? And all the team said, yeah, we'll hold it for you. So that's what I did. I told my JC coach, I said, hey, Coach Gio, I'm not going to play next year. I'm going to focus on my school. And as you can imagine, he wasn't happy.
Yeah, right.
But I had to max out credits at Scottsdale Community College, Mesa Community, and then I took online courses out in Rio Salado, so I can graduate JC a year and a half. And then I enrolled at Oregon mid-year, and I played the 3 years at Oregon. So it was one of those moves that I just kind of tried to do some research and kind of asked the counselors and to see if it was even possible. And they're like, yeah, but it's on you to do this.
Yes.
And so I was fortunate enough to have gone that route and did it and played those 3 years at Oregon.
Yeah. Just to before I go to our panel, just to touch base on what you said about it has to be you. It has to be within you what you want to do. Nobody can go out there and play the football game for you. It's you that's out there on the field playing the game, and the motivation has to come from you, and then you have to have heart, to go out there and be the best football player you can be. So, I mean, like you said, you can have influences on you, but it's up to you. You're the guy who's walking in on that field to play that game that day, and you're right, man. It's everything has to be in you to make it happen.
Yeah, and
That's
not to say that because I had so much help. I had a lot of family, friends, great mentors, advisors that helped me along the way. And so, but it's one of those things that when I speak to my nephews, or even my kids, and employees or whatever, it's like you have to be self-motivated. You have to find out what motivates you, what triggers you, how and how you're going to get things done and be better each and every day. It's something that it's just not instantly just going to happen. It happens over time through consistency, and it's just like the season. Like the NFL football season is 16 regular season games. You have playoffs, and then you go through to try and achieve your goal, playing in a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl. But it's not a sprint. It's one of those things that you have to practice day in, day out. And I saw that from my parents. I saw that.
sure.
I saw that growing up. So it was one of those things that was ingrained in me. And I knew that if I wanted something, I wasn't gonna have my mom walk me tell me to do this, tell me to do that, or whatever. I have to find something inside of me to say, all right, here, you got to do this. If you want it, you got to work for it. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of one of those things that now you find out what triggers you, what motivates you, and how can you wake up and do that same thing over and over again, day in and day out.
Yeah. Well, Carlo, Fitz, you guys have anything for Will?
Just for me, Will Smith, thank you for taking the time to jump on here and to share your story with us. Like you said before, you had to go another route. Like you had to go on your mission to come back and take another route to get to college. Because like Tim said before, when our people have to go through that, they're gonna give up.
Yeah.
Their last option, the first way come to mind, go, man, I don't want to take an extra year or two on that before I get to college. I want to go straight to college. So it's important, and I thank you for that. And just for me, as an outsider overseas, I was talking to Tim about this. We're a big fan. We do know you guys, all the Polys, all the Tongans in the NFL, and we do follow you guys, and we look up to you guys. But the thing is that the boys that are outside looking in, they don't know the struggle that you had to go through and the hustle that you had to put in to get to where you were. And sometimes I tell the younger rugby players, it's easy getting there, but the hardest thing is trying to stay on top.
Yes.
It took a lot of commitment to stay up there. And like you said, you had to, it's a self-driven for you to push yourself. Don't rely on anybody because they're not gonna get you up. They're not gonna help you put your boots on and tell you to run. You gotta tell yourself that within yourself.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Exactly.
I first time I met Will was over here on my first year here. Then I was like, man, I know there's Willie Tukuafu. I gotta go up and say hi to the fella. So I went up to him and I said, I figure it's the Tsunami, it's a sushi place out here. But
Yeah.
the thing is, because the people that I was with, they were too shy to walk up to Will. And I was like,
Oh.
hell no, you guys is
He's
from
just
the
another
States.
person, man.
Yeah. Not only that, but I was a big fan. I was a fan of Will and all the polys in the game. So I had to go up and take a photo and share with my people back overseas. How great! But it was amazing how humble Will was, and ever since then we just stay in touch and just. Yeah. But I got a question for you, Will.
Okay.
Can you please share? What was how hard is it to say no, all the success you had to your family, the close family, or the polys around you how hard is it to say no to them?
Yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, I was real family oriented. You know, when you're one of 16 and you're one of the younger ones,
yes,
growing up, you rely on your older siblings to take care of you and to help you out. I was fortunate enough that my siblings and people around family, they've already seen the journey my older nephews had gone on with Steve and Rich, Henry, Jeff, Jason, you know, Fred, all my older nephews that had gone to college and had played in the NFL. And they kind of saw the struggle. So when I came up, you know, it just became more amplified of how difficult it was because I had to explain to a lot of people. And my parents and my family, you know, they understood. So it wasn't like where I made it to the NFL and it was like, hey, I need this, or this, you know what I mean? Because when I got on as a tryout. So they kind of knew right off the bat when the draft came, I wasn't drafted. Following the draft day, or even the same day as the draft, they start making calls for free agents, meaning the guys that didn't get drafted, these are the guys that are going to start coming in and have a chance to make the team or even practice squad or even become a camp body is what they call them. Camp bodies are where you go in and they showcase the draft guys against these guys just to, you know, make them look a little bit better than they actually probably are. I get a call from the Niners. The Niners called me. They said, hey, Will, we'd love to have you come in for a tryout. And that's where I went. I went for 2.5 days, and they said, I appreciate you coming in. And that was it. So I came back to Oregon, and I just trained. And so my family knew that. They knew I wasn't on the team. They knew I was just trying to get on. And then, well, I think it was 3 days before the first preseason game, I get a call from the 49ers. They said, hey, Will, something happened to one of our D linemen. Are you in shape? I said, yeah, I'm in shape. All right, we're going to get you on the flight today. So I call my wife. We head to the airport. We get to the airport. Right as I'm about to board my flight again, I get a call from the Niners. It's the same guy. He said, hey, Will, something happened. We're not going to bring you in. Can you step out of line? And but we appreciate your willingness to get to the airport and come in. I said, no problem. If you need me, I'll be ready. So the next day, I get a call from the Niners. You know, as you can imagine, I'm kind of disappointed. I'm like, man, these guys, playing with me, whatever.
Yeah.
And I already knew the challenge of even just getting to a camp. I knew how difficult it was because I've seen it. And I even mentioned to my wife, I said, hey, if you want me to stop and find a job, I will, to support our family and to, she knew the journey. She said, no, we'll take this year and you can try to make it or not, and we'll go from there. The next day I get a call from the Niners that said, hey, Will, we'll bring you in. So I get to the airport 7 years later. Yeah, I had
Nice.
a real fortunate time. But
Nice.
going back to your question, Fetz, is that they knew, my family already knew. So it wasn't like hey, you made it this far, you get X amount or whatever. Now I need this or this or this. You know what I mean? They knew it was an everyday struggle because of how my journey getting in there, like you said, and then getting in there is one thing. Staying in there is another thing. You are competing every day. When you see the NFL contracts, they're not guaranteed. They're basically one-sided. That just guarantees that the team has you for, let's say, a year, 3 years. Mine was structured, not really structured, but how it was laid out was I was like a week-to-week, day-to-day player. And I was just fortunate. And every Tuesday, I looked forward to every Tuesday at 5:30. The reason being is that if you were on the team after Tuesday, I think Tuesday at 5:30, they would pay you for the week regardless.
Yes.
So
Payday.
that's how my wife and I lived. We lived at extended stay. We never got a permanent spot, but that's how we lived during our journey in the NFL. And so it's true what they say, that the NFL does stand for not for long. It doesn't last long.
Not for long. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we were just fortunate enough to be in there as long as we did, and we help out where we can help out. And I have a lot of family and friends that are really understanding,
Yeah. It's what you're saying is true about the NFL, not for long. The studies in the NFL is that as a running back, you played both. You played running back and defense, but as a running back, your lifespan is only 3 years. Out of in the NFL. But man, you went through a rough to get to where you got to, but you made it. And I mean, your story I love hearing your story because the determination in you kept going and not giving up when the 49ers keep calling you and then they said, okay, you can't come this time. Or I mean, for a kid, it'll discourage you to a lot of times for hearing that from a professional team. But man, that's awesome that you kept going and you played in the NFL for 7 years or 8 years. And that's credit to you, man. I mean, a lot of yeah.
Just on that, Will, the same situation you're going through, a lot of people, probably people in New Zealanders, In New Zealand, there's 5 Super Rugby teams out there. So if you're in Auckland, you're under the Blues, and you never want to leave. You never want to leave Auckland because your goal is to make the Blues. But I came up and I was just like you. I had to work hard to be like the guy in front of me or my teammate. They're just the skill level, their talent was way beyond my experience. But then I had to work hard for it. My goal was I wanna pass like that dude there, my mate there. I wanna run like this dude. I wanna have his skill set. So I had to work for it. But then I grew up in Auckland. I just don't see myself making the Blues. So but with us Pollies in Auckland, if we don't make the Blues, we're not gonna leave. We're just gonna give it up and just chill out in Auckland and just go on with our
Comfortable.
life.
It's comfortable for
Yeah,
you over
just-
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was lucky enough. I had someone else. I had a coach that believed in me and told me, "Let's move up north, come and play for my team, and we'll see how it goes from there." Then I just, hey, why not? I got nothing to lose. If I make it, I make it. If I don't, I always can come back to Auckland. They all started from there. So I made the Super Rugby my first year moving out of Auckland. I got picked up for Highlander, and all started from there. So just saying that, like, it was whatever. I'm enjoying this because someone's parents are watching us right now. Man, I hope they get something out of this. Not giving up on their kids and pushing their kids not giving up on themselves. Chase their dream till you can't move no more. Man, I appreciate you, Will, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, the biggest thing for me, it was just, you never wanted to disappoint anyone, right? You
Yes.
never wanted to see that struggle that your parents did or your family did or whatever they did, the coaches just go in vain. Just, you know what I mean? So in my whole mind, whatever I was going to do, I was going to go 100%. When every day in practice, because I've seen it, guys getting cut week in and week out, lockers getting cleaned out every week.
Every
And
week.
so,
Yep.
so it was one of those things where I go into work and this is how I take care of my family. So, you know what I mean? We're buddy right here. But once we go on the practice field, I have to give my all. I understand that, that this
Yeah.
is a business, and it was kind of my motivation. And and it goes back. I know, so you saying some parents and some families are probably watching. Yeah, just don't give up. Just keep going. Like the kids that are playing, they eventually don't get their goal to go here. There's a lot of different avenues, whether you're in sports, music, writing, whatever it is, business, tech. You just have to keep going.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing about it is one thing that my father always reiterated was be good to people. Be good to people. You don't know what type of influence that they might have later on down the road. And that's kind of what's helped me transition from playing football is one of the biggest things was I'd always see booster people at practice. The guys wearing the little lanyard with their name tags. And I always made an emphasis that after practice, I was going to go shake these guys' hands, introduce myself to them, and go from there. And that's kind of because if I didn't make it or whatever it is, maybe somewhere along the line, this guy can have an opportunity for me, And that's kind of what I learned from my mom and my dad was just being kind to other people, because you don't know what influence that they might have when they come. They might be able to help you down the road or whatever, or you can help them, vice versa.
It's just like that, like the saying goes, be kind to people on the way up, because on the way down, they're gonna still be there. So, but just to reiterate the point that I made to Linda Fejoko, he's on here with Willie Fejoko, and she said the statistic as well known and oft stated, the average NFL career lasts 3.3 years. According to the NFL Players Association, 78% of players go broke within 3 years of retirement, and 15.7% of the bankruptcy within 12 years of leaving the game, which that's and it's the fact too on players But you know, I think some of that has to do with being as a young kid coming into the NFL, and all of a sudden there's a whole lot of money given to you, and depending of financial situation or what you've been through, how to take care of your finances. At with players going broke after 3 years, I think it's just they don't know the financial education, how to deal with their money. I mean, that's my point of view. I think that, you know, I knew that. I went into at the time then I played. I mean, we didn't make the money as you guys have made these days, but you know, the guys before us didn't make as much money when we came in. But I think that has to do a lot with just not knowing how to deal with your finances as a young kid. So
Yeah, I think one of the big things and is culturally. I think when I don't even think culture. I think just overall, when people see NFL contracts, they immediately assume the Tom Brady millions, 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 millions.
yes,
You know what I mean? So initially, your thought when people think, oh, he plays in the NFL, he makes this, this, or this. When the truth is, those guys making that top tier are very few on each team. Everyone's minimum. A lot of guys are just very minimum,
probably,
which
yeah.
is still quite a bit, but it's not the millions where you think, oh man, I can drive this or this. You know what I mean? A luxury, that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's really a grind. It's really a grind day in, day out for a lot of the guys on the team that are just trying to stay on. And just like you said, you know, when you become vested in year 3, and NFL guys know that, you know, they go through the whole algorithms of this guy's on this tier, we're gonna have to pay him more for one more year, and all he needs is 3 games for a season. So by after 2 games, they're like, all right, let's get this guy out.
Yeah.
And that's how the business aspect of it is. I mean, these billion-dollar businesses don't stay billion-dollar businesses because they don't know those little details.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when
Every
you're going
detail,
everything, when you're going into those situations that you have to understand and know your worth, like then that's what I knew going in. That I was one older, I was one that was undersized D lineman, but I knew what my value that I could bring. I was willing to do whatever the coach asked, play on multiple play multiple positions and special teams, and more importantly, try to be the first one into the building every day, one of the last ones to leave, and being like a outstanding citizen outside the locker room and outside the building. It was one of those things that like, okay, yeah, we'll just keep him plugging along. If another guy comes in next week, then we'll get rid of Will. And that's kind of how my journey was like for the 7 years, realistically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that just educating people. But one thing that I love about our culture, the Polynesian culture, and our Tongan people, Samoan people, whatever it may be, is that there is a desire because you see how your parents are raised. And my brothers are back in Tonga, and I see that the struggle, and you hear the stories about them, my dad selling peanuts just to feed the family, you know, doing stuff like that. And that overall motivates me. I mean, I'm a father now, I have 4 kids, and the hustle and the grind is still there. It's just in a different avenue because you still have to provide. You know what I mean? That 2 years, that 3.5 years, whatever that number for that stat is, that doesn't last. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So whatever relationships that you've built on your way there, and the things that you've learned, can you transition into something that you like to do and that you can provide for your family?
Yes. I mean, that's the whole idea. I mean, just to, like you said, when you make it to the NFL, a lot of times people take it for granted and thinking that they're going to be there for a while. You know, I made it. So I'm going to play this long or whatever. But that's not the case, man. You can be here one day and be gone the next day. With and the contract is only guaranteed when you're playing. If you get cut, that contract goes away.
Yes.
It's not like the basketball and the baseball that it's guaranteed. Their contract is guaranteed even if they get cut. But football is a totally different sport, because the $1 million contract you have today, the money that you get up front is the guaranteed money that you get. You get cut tomorrow, that whole contract goes away.
Yeah.
Serious?
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things is for me, people understood that, you know what I mean? And it was just a constant grind every day just to try to get on and to stay on.
Yeah.
And you're pretty much saying that you stay ready. Your
Yes,
bag
sir.
is already packed and get ready.
Bags all packed.
Oh man. Oh,
You
that's
cannot-
crazy.
they call you. You don't need to come in today.
You just go. They don't need to call you. You just go and your car doesn't buzz you into the parking lot. The gate stays locked.
Yeah. Hey, it's you're right, man, because that phone call or that email, I said, well, you don't need to come in today. Bring in your playbook, and
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
it's one of the worst feelings you can have.
Yeah, the thing is a lot of people think that you're competing against the guys on your own team, right? Competing against the guy right behind you, the other dude behind him, or whatever on the practice squad, or whatever the case may be. But the truth of the matter is, they have the scouts that are scouting guys on every different team, all 30 teams. So if they feel like this guy on this other team is a better guy than you, and he's probably a practice squad guy, they'll cut you and call him up and say, hey, we want to bring you into our team, we'll activate you. And that's just the nature of the beast. That's just how it works.
Yeah, you're right.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's every day, reps are counted, reps are graded every day. Everything is graded.
Everything.
Your
Everything is on film.
everything. Yeah. Your
Ooh.
demeanor. How are you looking when you're walking out to the practice field? Are you one of those guys that's sprinting out there ready to go?
Or the one that walks out there.
Yes. Everything is filmed. Every rep is graded. They have monitors right now that can track your effort level. So they you have a baseline. Wow. Yeah, so they can see, okay, this guy hasn't been he's giving X amount of effort on these limited amount of plays. Okay, so he really doesn't want to be here. And that's kind of the process.
Wow.
It's a business that they're trying to get better, and it's nothing personal, but it's just your commodity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you gonna help them win? Or you're not? Or you know what I mean? And that's one thing that I took to heart when I went in is I understood it was a business, and I try to carry myself as such as well.
Accordingly, like you said, when we play, we only have films, but now the technology it's heightened up a little bit, so they know how hard you're going throughout the day or what you're doing.
Everything.
Man.
Everything. Golly, that's
With rugby, it's if you sign your contract, that's it. They can't do anything. So even if you don't start, it's guaranteed. If you don't play at all, you still get it. They only replace you if you get injured. Like if you're out for the season, then they'll replace you, but you still get paid from the team. They won't cut you. But but NFL is something else, man.
So, but the other side of it, if you're really good, they're going to pay you a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're doing well and if you're getting drafted high enough, these guys are getting, signing bonus in the millions, and and these guys probably the first 3 or 4 rounds, you're probably guaranteed to make the team. And you're on the team, or maybe for the duration of your contract, maybe the 3 to 4 years. But and you're making good money, but it's It's like a racehorse, man. When your time is up, you're out. They
Time's up, you're out. Yeah,
Hey,
So
Will,
I
I got
wanted
the.
to ask you something. There was a comment here by one of the viewers from Sione Moyaki. I'm just assuming you might be able to correct me, but he says that they enjoyed watching you and Tony play for the Seahawks.
oh
So
yeah.
I'm just assuming that's Tony Moyaki. Would you like to share some of the memories of you playing with Tony?
Yeah, Tony was a great player. Tony and I, we both got into, he was drafted. I think he was drafted maybe third, fourth round or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
We came out at the same time. And I watched him when he was at Iowa. And my rookie year at San Fran, I remember one vivid memory. Tony was starting, he was playing at the Chiefs. And he was doing really well. He was having a great season. And he scored on one of our linebackers. He did like a one-handed catch in the back of the end zone, just caught up, just jumped up, palmed the ball, fully extended. And I remember him. I was a practice squad guy, so I wasn't even dressed to play. I'm just on the side, like, dude, that guy's talented, man. I go up to him after the game. I was always a big fan of Tony. And then ended up playing with him in Seattle, and we had a great time. We did a lot of what we call these little combo blocks. Tony was the time I was a fullback, and so we had a lot of combo blocks where both of us were on the same guy working up to an additional player. But we had a really good time. Tony was a great friend. We still talk and text quite a bit. But phenomenal athlete, basketball player, football guy, and a great friend.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's amazing that you come from a large family of 16, but large families are not anything rare to us Pacific families. Yeah, was there anything, in terms of the struggle coming from one of the youngest and being 16, was there something that sort of almost hindered you towards playing football, whether no one could drop you off or you didn't have any gears or anything? Was there something specific that you had to go without?
Yeah, I was fortunate because a lot of my older nephews had played. The only problem is that when I wore probably a size 12 or something, those guys all 14, 15s, I just wore bigger shoes. I got all the hand-me-downs.
Tough socks
But
in
it
there.
was not. I have vivid memories of my mom because when we played on Thursday at 3:30, and she worked until 4:30. That's when she'd get off. But she'd skip her lunch on those days, and it was always motivating for me because as we would run out there to the film, I'd see my mom in the stands with their blue and white striped janitor shirt, and it started to make sense, a lot of sense. My mom just skipped lunch just so she can come to our and watch us play, and it was a proud moment for me. And then my senior year in high school, I remember I'd always go down before the game and wheel my dad up. He was in a wheelchair, so I'd wheel my dad to the end zone, and those are some fond memories for me. My parents did a lot with not so much, but it was truly humbling and motivating at the same time.
Yeah.
It's
And what would you like to say to, there's young Tongans, most of them are sort of aspiring or looking at rugby or rugby league, which is predominantly played in Tonga. And some, they sort of look at NFL, oh man, that's too hard to get to and stuff like that. But, that's real money. You go play for the All Blacks or whatever, that's a lot of money. But if you go play in NFL, that's real money. So, I mean, what would you like to, say to the Tongan kids that maybe want to play in, NFL or alternative to rugby and rugby league?
I think one of the biggest things that I would say is find what motivates you, and use that as fuel and energy to motivate you each and every day, whatever that is. And then be consistent. Your opportunity, the window of opportunity is not big, and it closes really fast. So when you want to go and your friends are doing this or they want to do that and stuff, and you have training sessions, make those sacrifices. You got to make a sacrifice, because you don't want to be down the road and be like, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done. You have all that time later on down the road to hang out and to do all these things. But make those sacrifices day in and day out to get your training done. Eat the right things, get rest. And if that's your goal to make it to the rugby league or in the NFL, whatever the case may be, nothing that you achieve that's like worth it. It just happens like that. Sacrifice is one of the biggest keys, and I think for me, that I understood, and I try and I strive to understand each day. You have to sacrifice, because the window closes pretty fast. Whether you're trying to get to the NFL or you're trying to get to rugby league or whatever it may be, but you have to find something that motivates you day in and day out, and be consistent with that. Those are the things that, I mean, some of the little tips that I'd like to share with those guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I have to be the fun police here and just put a post-it note on our time. Our time's up.
Okay.
Oh, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is a real treat, and I take a lot of pride in being Tongan and being
Nice.
a rich heritage from our Polynesian people. And I know that we are born with something special inside. If we can dig down deep and find whatever that is, it can propel us, because that's how our ancestors were. You know, I mean, always found a way and always made the best with what we had. And so I appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's great to have you, a non-hihifo. That's great. Teke avava'u, lape ainu.
Hey.
I know my mom. Yeah, they always say, make sure when you go over there, you let them know you're the huka vava'u.
Yes. It was an honor to have you, Will.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You guys have the great rest of your evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Same to you,
Thank
Will.
you.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks, Will.
Thank
Okay.
you. Hey, I just want to recognize before we go off here on online, the Linda Lee Fehoko and Peterio Mafi. They're on here, and they said the best. Mafi said the best part of football is, to me, is that your education has to be good to be able to play at college. If it don't make it to the NFL, you already have an education background to help you. So, I mean, I think a lot of what we strive for is getting an education where, our parents can't really afford to put us in universities. And same goes to Linda. Linda's son and Billy's, the Helco's son, are playing now with the
Chargers.
Chargers. And I've seen the work that they've done and pushing their son to go through all this, and his journey was not easy. Braden Fejelko, but with hard work, he's playing.
Yeah.
So kudos to the parents, and hopefully we can learn a lot from Will on this conversation, man. You got some good pointers out there, man, for our audience. And thank you for coming on. We appreciate you, man. Appreciate it. Maybe later on we can come back to you and have another conversation.
Love to. Thank you guys.
Okay.
Follow Will.
Hello, Will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.